You're listening to the Pagoda Boys, recorded at the No Limit Cafe, downtown Pagoda, Tennessee. We hope you enjoy this episode. The Pagoda Boys are sponsored by Cypress Creek Outdoors, Travis Ward Custom Calls, Maker's Call Company, Lane Dunning Custom Calls, Pine Bluff Sand and Gravel, Outer Limit Power Sports, Hurt Seed and Halls, Farm Credit Mid-America, Tyson Foods in New Bern, DeKalb Asgrow and Delta Pine, Berrien Surveying, Mud Lake Planning Company, Pete Kaiser Accounting Services, West Tennessee Crappie Fishing Guide Service, Chase Petty Outdoors, Universal Contractors, Ford Construction, Duck River Bird Taxidermy, Waterfowl Outfitters of West Tennessee, Wendell Alexander Realty, Hilliard Farms in Nauvoo, Tennessee, Nutrient Ag in Wimberg, and our very own Childress Farms.
Hello, listening world. This is Tony Childress. I'll be hosting this episode of the Pagoda Boys. We're broadcasting from downtown Pagoda, Tennessee, at the No Limit Cafe, which, according to our ranking, is a 5-star restaurant. You may not agree, but come on down and figure it out for yourself. We're here in Pagoda, which is the duck hunting capital of the world, at least today. And I'd like to introduce my co-host for today. We got White Beavers. We got my brother Wally Childress. We got RT Frizzell. And we've got a special guest that I know you all are going to enjoy. We got Mr. Ronnie Capps here today, and we're going to talk about something I think that's near and dear to a lot of our hearts and we enjoy, which is duck hunting. But before we get started with Ronnie, White, what you been doing?
Man, I've been working. Well, I say I've been working. I've taken the last week off because I was in Canada.
Sounded like you started out with a lie.
Yeah.
Well,
that ain't the only time.
I worked before I went to Canada, but I've been in Canada for the past week hunting ducks and geese, so that was fun. Glad to be back though.
Did you have a good experience?
Oh man, it was unbelievable. It really was unbelievable.
Okay, well, good deal. Good deal. You gonna try to go back sometime again?
I don't think I can't not go back.
Okay.
It was that good. So,
what about you, Wally? Farming, how's it been?
It's been good. We've been picking corn. Started picking cotton 3 days ago, and they're rolling through it like everything. Cotton's decent. Been cutting beans. The yield's good, but the damage is bad. And a while ago, I was sitting outside of my house because there's a little cotton field behind my house. I looked at my wife. I said, "Heck, I planted that field 42 years." And then you get to thinking, that's a long time.
That's a long time. It's 4 decades and 2 years.
Yeah, and I was 17 when I started planting. You know, we did farm, started, I think, driving tractor when we was 9, but it's already 42 years I put a crop in that same field.
Same field. Why do you think the damage is happening to the soybeans? Could it be because of the rain we've been having?
Yeah, the 2 hurricanes and the heat and the humidity in between. That first one really got us because it just stayed, remember, 90. Humidity was high, no sun, wouldn't dry out, but it's going to make a late bean crop pretty good. And, you know, it's put some water in some holes. So in this late corn that we planted into August, and it's making some good ears. So there's benefits to all of it. You got to have a little bit of everything.
Give and take. RT, what about you?
Nah.
No?
Was that duh?
That's probably that's one of the most intelligent things I've ever heard come out of his mouth.
Come on, RT, give us something.
He said, what about you?
What about you, RT?
What about me?
Were
you asking me a question?
Yeah, what about you?
Oh.
RT, have you seen my award I got?
You been working?
Work.
Did you
I got to work now.
Did you ever go and get your Boykin Spaniel back from the trainer?
I did.
How'd that go?
Good, I guess.
It's good.
Work them every evening.
It looked like it went good that day you come in. Your blood pressure was about 450 when you've been working.
Well, don't mess him up. Don't mess him up.
Operator.
No, he's doing good.
Whitey has that with his dog.
The first 2 days were challenging. It was more of me and him getting back in the groove together.
So he got you good and trained?
Well, yeah, I had to figure out where he was at, and he had to get back used to working with me.
Hey,
I think for a minute he thought, "Oh, I'm getting to come home and be a house dog," and that ain't.
Hey, are you going to get him on that Tony Childress dog food?
I may. Hey, Tony also has ventured out, and now he's making what do you call it?
We don't know.
Wally.
I done forgot.
What's them bushes out here they sell?
Mum containers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I wish we could get a good view, Tony.
Oh, we are. Hey, right now I'm going to pop the picture up on the video on YouTube so y'all can see it.
Yeah, he's an artist. We didn't realize Tony was the artiste. He
Yeah.
was.
Why don't you walk us through that, Tony? I'd like to hear that story.
I think our listeners had rather hear from Ronnie, but I will. We had to do a little bit of remodeling in our house, and as we were remodeling it, my wife said we needed some new toilets, so I didn't disagree with her. So we got 2 new toilets, and the people who were putting in the floor put the old toilets out, in the yard. Well, yesterday or the day before she was going to work, she said, "Hey, Tony, why don't you do something with those toilets?" And me being the good husband I am, Ronnie, I'm a good husband. I went out there to put them in the back of my truck, and if y'all ever tried to pick up a toilet, it's heavy.
Did you spill it?
No, I didn't spill it. It was
You got
empty.
to see this, Ronnie.
So I said, well, what am I going to do to check this thing off my honey-do list? And I improvised as a good husband would do. So you'll just have to see the picture. But we had 2 moms that needed to be put in a pot, and they are literally each in a pot.
So, thinking about that, it's very practical. You fill up that on the back, the tank.
Little water, self-water.
Yeah, you could flush it, half a flush if you only wanted a little bit. And then, hey, how about for frost? What would you do,
Well, you had to.
Tony, if it
Put a
was
little
going to
heat to it.
frost?
One-
No.
Yeah.
It's got a lid. The lid shuts over to
So they
keep the
had-
frost off.
They had to replace the floor where the toilet was too. I'm worried about that.
Well, we replaced the
little bit
floor,
bigger
but those toilets were short, and we're getting a little older, so we
I'm
wanted
sure
to.
she loves you after.
Well,
Had to work on your
she
aim.
said
You
do
done ruined the
something
floor.
with. She said do something with them. So I did something with them. I did exactly what my wife asked. I think she'll be more specific the next time. But if there does come a frost, you can poop the lid up, stick it down, and close it.
I like
But
the
anyway.
self-watering deal. 3 gallons, you can put like half a gallon at a time.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Well, since we're already in the toilet, I'm going to tell you what happened to me a while ago.
Oh, God.
We was at Timbers, and I went in the bathroom, and even grown men are still little boys. I go to the urinal, and all it was a soccer goal and not the ball hanging. Have you ever been there? There's a soccer ball hanging from a goal in the urinal
for kids.
for kids. And I'm sitting there, somebody got rid of the ball, and I lean over and look at the other one, there's a ball in it, in the goal. And I think, oh man, I wish I could stop and go over to that one. That's bad to still be a kid.
You got to be a kid.
You gotta be a kid.
Anyway, enough of the things that we've done this week. I want to get to ask some questions to our guests, but first, Ronnie, won't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, well, I'm homeboy here, Ronnie Capps, and grew up on Reelfoot Lake, and blessed to still be there, man, and enjoying times like it is right now. This fall weather's approaching us, and ducks are showing up, and it's just a beautiful time of year. Probably my favorite time of the year is 2nd and 3rd week in October, and that first frost, I always look forward to that, and I'm just happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you as a guest,
Yep, we
and I know we got a lot of questions about you. We want to talk about. Last time we were here, we talked about fishing a lot in Reelfoot Lake, and for those of you that didn't get to listen to those episodes, I encourage you to go and listen to the Ronnie talk about Reelfoot Lake and talk about fishing and things like that. You'll really learn a lot. You really, really will. Now, Ronnie, I've been I've had the fortune of going duck hunting with you a couple of times, and it was always an enjoyable experience. Got a lot of shooting, got my belly full of food.
Food, top of the list, food. Yeah.
And blind was warm, but that's been a long time ago. So Now, I know you hunt on Reelfoot Lake, so why don't we start talking about your hunting experiences on Reelfoot Lake, and start from the beginning. When did you remember going on your first duck hunt, and actually where was it, and who was it with?
It was my grandfather for sure. You know, I just a few days ago I pulled back some old pictures. I don't have many of me. Most of them are Polaroid snapshots, but I got to see a few pictures of Reelfoot. Trees look the same right now today as they did then, almost back there where we were hunting in Cranetown. But the first duck I ever shot and missed was a black duck, and wasn't 20 feet from the left end of the blind. I was on the end. My granddaddy was right by me. Missed him 3 times, and that's the most fond memory, I guess, of the early.
How old were you then?
Oh, I was standing on something big. I was probably in 5 and 6 range.
Yeah.
Just old enough to barely hold a gun up, and you know you can't get on them. I think it was with a 16 gauge at that point. But my granddad had a lot of spare time, and of course he took me on the Mississippi River hunting in the backwater a few times when my grandma didn't like it none, of course, too young to be going. But me and him would pull up in the willows and homemade decoys and a couple dozen, and just, you know, that's memories there. But Reelfoot was some of the best hunts that I remember. He let me shoot 100% of the time. We would do nothing more than have an old Reelfoot Lake boat with some oars, the bow facing oars on it. He'd paddle down the shoreline. Some of the first shooting instruction I got was from Coots. Yeah, and he'd just paddle the shoreline, and you know, and hold the boat so I could shoot coots when they come out of the trees and wherever they might come from, whatever. But then we got to hunting in the grass in Swan Basin, and then on Sandy Beach in the north of Swan Basin, there on the big basin, on the right wind days, we'd go over there, and he'd just pull up in the grass with a old Reelfoot Lake bow. We'd had our decoys just on the outside edge of the grass. And I remember and we never see them anymore. I remember shooting 4 golden eyes with 1 shot.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know how long it's been. It's been 2-3 years since we've even killed a golden eye on the river one time that I remember. But we never see them almost anymore.
Yeah.
But that's been a long time ago. But it was some diver shooting, of course, and we'd kill them out every once in a while. But that's where I cut my teeth, really, was letting him paddle me around and pull in the bushes where we saw John might have jumped some ducks, or a good place where we had the wind in our favor, and just actually hunting the shoreline of Reelfoot Lake.
Hunting the shoreline of Reelfoot Lake?
Not from a blind, just Reelfoot. That north end from Champy's Pocket on that sandy beach down to Swan Basin, that northeast, that eastern side, it was always, of course, in the morning shady, had the sun to our back, and very important anywhere you duck hunt. To
be in the shade.
But we would keep that sun behind us right there, and I mean, you know, that's, you know, that, as a hunter, that's something you learn right away. That's when I learned it. You know, everything I hunt in and position is 100% in tune with the sun. I mean, you gotta hide yourself, get in the shadow some way, and you know, get behind a tree or get behind something, get a shadow on you,
and have the sun at your back.
But you know, that's just one little tiny thing that comes out of going with somebody and loving the sport like we do.
Now, back at that time when you started hunting with your granddad, and that's probably the early 70s to mid 70s. Yeah. Did y'all have a permanent blind spot at that time?
Did. It was in Cranetown at the time, and it was quite a walk for a young fella like me with a pair of northern hip boots, because we had to walk in there most of the time. It was so shallow, and Beaver, you talked about the Beaver a while ago, the ditch getting into Cranetown was a nightmare. Cross the lake first, then you had to get through these beaver dams that they built across our little boat run through there, and they built them every night. You just couldn't keep them from building them, and it was some bad deals. I mean, it was an ordeal to get to that point, get into Cranetown with a boat, unless the water was really high. And you know, in my childhood, the lake was lower.
Yeah.
The lake was lower.
It was held at a lower level than it even is today. So walking was the main way in, and we'd have to walk a long ways. It was a long walk. But anyway, we fought that fight and went through them woods. There was no such thing as a kayak. If it had been, man, I'm sure he would have been kayaking me through them tight places and right on through the woods with a kayak. But we actually waded that water.
And it's, you know, a lot of times when people think about Reelfoot Lake, they think of deep water when you're hunting. But it sounds like the place where y'all hunting at Cranetown may have been just like a little water hole.
It was very shallow till you got out there where water stayed all the time, and it was terribly muddy then. Matter of fact, almost impossible to wade with, especially with hip boots. And honestly, most of my young years, I never heard of a pair of chest waders. Nobody wore chest waders. There was no chest waders. It was just hip boots.
Yes.
It's it.
You got 2 foot of water and 3 foot of mud.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, the Northerners was just a slightly taller boot than the service. Some of them old black service boots. Coon hunting. People use them for coon hunting a lot.
Yeah.
Now, by Northerner, for our listeners, that used to be a brand of boot that we
A
had.
hip boot, yeah. But
And they were the top of the line.
They were then, but boy, they would tear quick. You could put a hole in them quick, and you could never dry them out after you got them wet. I can tell you that. But we froze some feet off just fighting that battle right there, man. And you know, just thinking about that one thing, we got some great equipment today. Compared to what we used to have, it's no end to what
We've talked about it before, and I think you may agree. If the clothing that we have now, the boots we had now, and the transportation to get to and from hunting spots were what we had now as we did back then, do you think as many people would be hunting?
Oh man, I honestly, I think there'd be a bunch of quitters.
Yeah.
And we had some kind of drive to fight all the elements and harsh conditions. We probably I should have been drowned several times because we're just in tiny boats, and you know, you can overload real quick. Back then we had fire buckets, clay fire buckets, and charcoal, and you know, just to say we had a fire with us, and that all those 2 things are quite heavy.
And they smoke.
They smoke.
Smoke you out of the blind.
They sure will.
Well, let's say you went into this spot at Cranetown, you walked in.
Yeah.
What did it look like? I mean, how big was the blind?
It's we built low profile blinds, wooden blinds, and of course it had to be. In my time, we rebuilt that thing several times. You'd catch it in the spring and try to get your plywood in there.
When the lake was high?
Had some water in it, but we redone that blind several times. But it was a very low profile blind, and I don't know. I guess the old timers just thought the lower the better, and I had so many pump knots on my head, you know, going down through them old blinds that it was unbelievable. And I'm like, when I got older, I said, there's one priority. We're going to build it where we can walk and not hit our head. That was a priority. So
what was the size of it?
Well, it would shoot about six guys. So, you know, about 2'4" on a hole. So 6. You talking about probably 16 footer.
16 to 20.
Right.
What about in the back?
Well, it was a little bench. It was probably 8 foot deep, two sheets of plywood, probably 4 foot on.
Yep.
8 foot, and you know, just a little bench in the back, and had a charcoal bucket right against the center there somewhere, or maybe a couple if he's lucky. And
was it a floater blind or?
No, it was permanent. It was on post, post. Yeah.
Now, did your granddad guide?
No.
So this was just fun hunting?
No, just fun hunting. He had an old friend named Shorty Haynes that hunted all the time, and I think Shorty guided quite a bit. He hunted in Staten Hole, old Shorty did. But him and my granddaddy was buddies, hunting buddies, and anyway, my granddaddy would work year round, man, collecting foam off of Mississippi River when he was commercial fishing. He seen a block of styrofoam floating down the river. He's gonna put it in the boat, and he'd always bring them home, and he carved decoys out of the foam, and he weighted the bottom of the decoy with net lead. it was a process now. And we bought all the parts. The heads, screw-on heads, come out of the old Herders magazines, and he'd bolt them heads onto the body. He just done the body part, but he'd buy those heads from Herders magazine and bolt it into the decoy, and he painted with Herders paint that you buy to paint your own decoys from Herders back in. And I remember in grade school, I always had them Herders magazines in my desk at school, and there was hundreds of pages in them things. I couldn't quit looking at that thing, man. I got in trouble a few times looking at Herders magazine.
You still got some of those decoys?
I don't. In the attic I do.
That's good. That's nice.
Yeah, that is. And he also built. He built so many goose shadows. I'm talking about beautiful paint job, but all the stuff he ever built. Now we know for sure that size matters, right? Yeah. But in the day, he was building the decoys exactly the size of the duck, and lo and behold, they really just don't work like they used to. That size just it makes a lot of difference these days.
Mm-hmm.
Now back then, that was before mojos, electronic hunting, and things like that.
Absolutely, we had those paper decoys and
paper maches.
Yeah, and of course they come apart. It was terrible. Mice got in those things. We'd store them in our attic in the shop, and we'd bring them out the next season, and mice just tear them all to pieces, of course, bed up in them and stuff. It was a big mess. But I remember doing that. Then they started building that same mold out of it was the same decoy out of hard plastic. And golly, we used them forever. They were pretty durable decoys. So
now, was your granddad? Was he the person that called?
Oh yeah, and not much. It was a rare thing for him to call much with a call. It was always anking at them. He said if they're not close enough to holler at them with your mouth, you don't need to holler at them anyway. Okay.
Now I know what anking is, and
Anking.
I don't know if any of our listeners do, and we may get you to demonstrate that here in a minute, because I know you know how to ank, right?
Yeah, we've done that a few times. My little 3-year-old's already anking that.
Now back then, when you were hunting with your granddad, and y'all were he called the shots, right?
He let me know when to shoot. Yep.
How far? Where were the ducks?
Too close. Too close.
Too close to hit.
Too close. Yep. That's why I didn't hit that black duck.
Yeah.
I can see it.
It was 20
see
yards.
If there's something you can see, I'm sure everybody has something that you can see that happened to you when you was a child.
Yeah.
Just this one thing. And I had deja vu, and you tell him this when you get to see him. But I carried Bub Edwards duck hunting in my hole back a few years ago, and there was a hen. He was on the very far left end, same place I was when I was a kid. And this hen come in right, there's a little gap between the cypress tree and my blind. It was too close, of course. He missed her 3 times now, Bub. Tell Bub this. Don't let him miss this section. But anyway, and we give him a lot of trouble about that. But it was the same, it was the perfect, it almost matched what happened to me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe that I saw that, and I knew they wouldn't believe what I was going to tell them, but I'm telling y'all, it was deja vu for
Came
a
back
second.
to
It
you.
was crazy.
Yeah.
And Bub's a shooting coach. He used to be, didn't he?
Bub missed 3 times. I seen it.
Dry run.
Well, back then, do you think ducks work different then than they do now?
Oh, absolutely. They're on high end alert anymore. And there will be some variations according to the weather situation and what kind of stress level they're under. I had to say that. And early in the season, they're a little bit more easy to trick. But weather's a big part. It can be the end of the season in terrible weather, and you can do business with like you used to. But when they have all their senses about them, and they got their belly full, and not starving to death, and good health, and had one of their eyes shot out or something. These ducks, they pretty hard to trick close.
No, they're different now.
They've definitely. Hey, we're educating all animals. all of them.
Well,
These
what
fish.
What you
ducks.
said yesterday, Tony, just in conversation, you were like, yeah, you went to Canada last week and hunted, and y'all killed a bunch, and they were easy, didn't have to hardly do anything. You said, now think about it. Before that duck gets here to West Tennessee, it's been hunted for 5 months. 5 months worth of education and pressure. And you were like, if you kill a good mature green-headed mallard in West Tennessee, you've done something. Like, that's a smart duck you just killed.
Especially if you get them to work in.
Yeah.
Now, when did you start guiding on your own?
There's an article in Sporting Clays magazine. I was in high school, and when I started guiding. Not advertised, there wasn't any license or anything. You just we had a place. My dad run Lakeview Grocery at the time, and people would come through, of course, hunting here, there, and yonder around here, and looking for a guide. So my dad hooked me up with some people from Wisconsin one time, and they kept coming back. And finally, the guy wrote an article, and Randy was his name. But anyway, it's in Sporting Clays magazine way, way back. I think I still got it. Pretty cool, because I took him in the woods. We had plenty of water in the lake at that time. We didn't hunt from a blind. We hunted in the timber, and that's hunting there.
Now, hunting in the timber, would you stand in the timber you vision it in Arkansas?
Absolutely, except cypress, you know.
Okay.
The bigger, cleaner forest you got, cleaner understory, the better. And just areas where they'll get to feeding, get to hitting, and you might shoot them one good time. You better let them rest, though, if you're shooting that kind of deal. But I would go through the woods just walking, and these days nobody does that much. I did it this past year, and just trying to get on something for some guys that was going to come hunting with me, and they don't mind hunting in that timber. We didn't have a lot of water, so I had to hit all the little potholes. There's more than you think. There's a lot more than you think in the Reelfoot area, and the great maps that we have these days. I got Motion X that I run. And I made a bunch of potholes, and you know what? We could have had a great wood duck shoot in every one of them, but there was no water.
Yeah.
And when you got to have water to get out of the perimeter of that old hole, that water hole, when you start eating out in the woods, then you kill you some mallards. But it really wasn't worth the walk for a few buddies, and so we didn't do it. But every one I went to was full of ducks.
Full of ducks,
and it's fun. I mean, just fun. Deer was running everywhere. I mean, I was kind of solo, hadn't nobody walk through there all year in places, and it was on in the season pretty good, but we still didn't have much water. Mm-hmm. And that kind of hunting, it'll require some work that a lot of people don't mess with much no more. But man, it can be some great quality. They'll sit down in your lap if you can find you a little bruck bush. Actually, a beaver. That's where the beaver come into play, and they're good to you. Is some of them little holes. There'll always be a beaver dam or two, sometimes one at each end of them mud holes back in the woods with them little deep spots. And that's where the ducks will that's where you set on the beaver house is a good thing, because he's always going to build it around a tree, typically, on them big cypress. And I'll lean up against the tree, get the sun right, and have me 3 decoys on a jerk string, man, and I'm ready. That is just fun to me.
And you shoot them close.
You better shoot. Yeah, too close sometimes.
Now, explain to us what compared to now. What was duck hunting like on Reelfoot back in the 70s and 80s? You were in high school.
Yeah, just there's a lot fewer people hunting per blind for sure. And a big lake boat was really all we had to travel with. Some of the guys, Shorty Haynes, I mentioned him earlier, my granddaddy's friend there, had a giant boat built by Dale Calhoun, an oversized Reelfoot Lake boat, if you will. And just across, he would leave Ray's Camp and go straight to Swan Basin, hit Donaldson Ditch, and down to Big Rawson, and go up in the Staten Hole, a place called the Staten Hole, the most beautiful cypress break you ever seen, man, and hunted there and guided. He guided there. He did a lot of guiding, matter of fact, but it was always like 3 men at the most. It was like him and 3 or 2, and that's about the full party. That's a big party back then. Now on the firing line, well, they didn't have to risk their life crossing the lake, and they could just follow a ditch, not have to worry about big wind, waves and stuff. I'm sure they hunted more. I didn't hunt much anywhere other than that western side of Reelfoot. It's funny because people had their old timers. They had their zones that they kind of, and it all dates back to the night riders, how they made a living right there. The trappers had their trap lines, and their families trapped them same places year after year. Duck hunters hunted the same places year after year. And, fishermen, commercial fishermen, fished the same areas year after year. And, today there's still remnants of that I'm telling you about right here. And not too many people really know, but it was zones where you didn't kind of go hunting on north end of Reelfoot back in the day. You kind of stayed where you're supposed to be, kind of thing. And it's just that way. It was that way anyway.
Back then, say the 70s and 80s and stuff, were most out of towners being guided, or were
absolutely they? Yeah. About $50 a day was a big number, to pay for a duck hunt then, and they were. Most of them were. I remember a guy coming, not sure, he was from like Iowa, and had a homemade blind that he had built, custom blind, and it looked like a giant flying saucer. And it was for 3 guys and he hunted in the big water off the point of Green Island, between the Green Island Point and the spillway, right in the middle of the lake. You picture a giant flying saucer with 3 layout blinds right in the top of it. And it was perfectly round. He had a big old trailer built for it and stuff. He anchored that thing out and had about 250 decoys in a separate boat, and a guy that worked the decoys for him and picked up his ducks. So the hunters they didn't have a boat, of course, and attached to the blind. He let the hunters out, and the decoy guy done the decoy work and picked up the ducks that they shot. But he done very well on Reelfoot doing that. That was one instance I just remember of somebody showing up in style and something out of the ordinary back then, and was successful down there for sure.
And he was from out of town?
Yeah, from Iowa, I believe.
Which is now kind of how they do sea duck hunting now.
Oh, absolutely.
Today.
Absolutely. That was the coolest blind. I won't never forget seeing it, and I've always wanted to duplicate that. But he had weighted the bottom weighted ballast out with lead or something, I'm sure, and it was just a cool deal. It had like a waterproof coated tarp kind of thing on it.
They put a motor on it?
No, it wasn't. They towed it. They just towed it out. Towed it out and anchored it out.
They leave it there the entire year?
No. You could back then. I think you probably could have left it there at that point. I know you could then. They hadn't even registered sites or nothing then. That was before I was like 16.
Yeah.
So that was a long time ago. He could have, but the weather wouldn't let him out there. I mean, it would have, ice, and that's some bad water out there when it gets windy. So they picked their days for sure.
I got a buddy from Clarksville, and they're in a club, the Blackjack Club, or up in there, and it's been there a long time on that north end of the lake.
I guess they're the second oldest one.
Who's the oldest?
Blue Wing.
Blue Wing.
I think so.
Is it right there by it?
Yeah, you're right.
And both of them,
Yeah.
we understand that the train used to run from there, from Clarksville back to there, and they'd come in and hunt.
I would not,
years
man.
ago.
All the Blackjack boys, George Watson, I guess he's president of the show right now, but they all hunt with me.
Yeah, do they?
It's quite of an, I don't know what I should say or shouldn't, but I'm telling you, they have tried to preserve all of that old stuff, and it will literally give you chills to go in their club.
Yeah, I've seen it. Hank Wright's in it. The commissioner, I'm on the commission with it. He's in that club.
All the trunks of people that have passed away, their equipment's there.
Oh.
Of course, you see that, all the trunks.
I've seen a lot of the posters or stuff they had on the wall.
And those northern hip boots are in there, boy. But I appreciate them trying to keep it original. Weed up there, and they got a butler, and that dinner table's something now. But it's all old the way it used to be. I mean, in their bedrooms, they got the light bulb hanging out of the ceiling. You pull the string to turn it off and on.
Kind of going back in time.
Absolutely. I don't know how many sleep there. A bunch, like 20.
Yeah, it looked like a lot.
Upstairs. Well, it's worth.
Tornado missed it.
Yep.
I think it did a little bit of roof damage.
Just a couple of times. I appreciate them. Lane Lyle's one of the oldest members there. I give Lane some of my old hunting vests. I give him some equipment just to put in up there. I had a herder's duck vest. So I give that to him and donate it to the cause up there. It's pretty cool, man. Hope it'll carry the tradition on.
I hope so too.
All right, let's move to the middle 80s. Is that about when y'all registered blinds?
Yeah, I was barely 16, so that would have put it. I was 66 born.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was 16. You had to be 16. You had to be 16.
Yeah.
Be 82.
Did you have a blind number somewhere else and moved it? Did it let y'all move them once or something?
Yeah, the story was, the way it was, I hunted in Crane. My dad registered a blind in Crane Town. That was the original number. And anyway, it was two blinds up there. It was Mr. Red Adams hunted in the far north end of Crane Town, and then my dad. And that back then, I mean, it was a unique deal, but it was a really good spot back there. And from the time I was just a young boy till the time I was in that zone, teenager zone, my dad was having some financial hardships. Didn't get to hunt a lot, so my granddad took me a lot. But during that time, there was another family that moved into the Crane Town area up there through a marriage to the Red Adams that had the blinds up in the north end. And, those guys moved in there, and there was a lot of hardship. It wasn't peaceful up there. But it was one of them deals. And they were just really too close. I mean, when somebody shoots and covers you up with shot, you too close.
Yeah.
And even in the timber.
Yeah.
And it was in the timber for sure, big timber. But that's too close. So once I learned that, okay, well, the blind's registered, this is not a quality spot to hunt with somebody. Just there's no reason for this. And I had walked all over Reelfoot Lake by then, every hole in the back of them woods everywhere, and hunted them. Just walked timber hunting. And so anyway, when I found out that yes, if you do have a registered blind site on Reelfoot Lake, the law still allowed you to move it to anywhere as long as you was not within 200 yards of another existing blind. So I'm like, okay, well, that's going to be priority for me. I'm going to get as far from everyone as I possibly can in the better spot I've ever hunted. And where I'm at now in the Grassy Bend, the far end up in the timber is where I chose to put it. And so he got locked in there a year or so after they made the law where it basically had to be GPSed in and located on a spot. So, thank goodness I got to get it moved. The pictures I have, I told you I pulled, that's the old hole in Crane Town. I wouldn't take nothing for them. I'll show them to you sometime.
I'd like to see them.
It's beautiful, man. Jackie Hutchins, one of my old school teachers in grade school, he was a 6th grade math teacher. Me and him was hunting that day, and he was breaking ice to go get a greenhead over there, and I was laughing at him and started snapping his picture. Thank God I snapped pictures of him trying to get over to pick up that duck because I think he got wet.
Yeah.
And of course that's some of the only pictures, man, that I've got of that hole.
Really?
Yeah. And so anyway, but you could still see them giant old trees on the east. We was not facing correct.
Yeah.
I'll put it that way, and on purpose, because we had to walk in. You couldn't walk across that deep water. We was facing the wrong way. That sun was always in my eyes, cornering, but still in my eyes. And so, man, just duck hunting I wouldn't take nothing for the memories. It's just it's a so very unique place, man. It brings tears to my eyes, dude.
So when you moved.
Yep.
You built a big blind.
Yep. Built a big blind in in Grassy Bend.
That's about the round. We're getting closer to the time when the lakes got it held a little bit higher, right?
This was in 90.
Yeah.
The refuge got established. Black Bottle Refuge got established over there too. Anywhere from, well, I guess it was like 88, 89 they established that refuge. But I know by 90 they were established.
Yeah.
Maybe the first year or something. And anyway, when they did that, it was a big corn farm then, and they was able to get the water off and keep it in pretty good shape. But Canada geese filled that thing up. By the way, in the 90s, we actually had a lot of Canadas making it here then.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, but it was in the 90s. So anyway,
89 was really cold.
there was just because of that, what that refuge done was establish a flight pattern of all waterfowl that would travel from Black Bottle Refuge to Grassy Island, the federal part of which was timber refuge. But so they're getting grain here and they're staying they're back and forth. So it created a lot of traffic. So my favorite hunting spot after that was between Black Bottle Refuge straight toward Burnt Woods. And nobody hunted, and there's a draw that runs that whole way down through there. Golly, I've walked down that road a million times, walk down the road and walk off left or right into the timber, and you got mallards coming over you all day long. It's just a matter of you coaxing them into the woods, and we had a ball doing that back in there. The higher the water, the more the better it got. You know how that is, but it was not boatable. It's walkable only, and you had to fight that. But man, we had some fun, and that's where I met John Folks at.
Yeah,
good guy, and
great guy.
He loved to hunt as much as I did, and I says, John, I said, I got a number over in Cranetown that we could use our number to build a blind with. I said, but I sure not going to build one over. I'm not going to hunt over there by the people that are over there in Cranetown. They just not. I don't want to hunt that close to anybody. And he said, if you'll help me, we'll build a blind in back there where we've been hunting. But I had hunted there with my granddaddy in that little hole. He was hunting in another hole about 200 yards from me over there. And we met. He said, let's put all our decoys in one. There ain't no sense in hunting beside each other. Let's hunt together. Heck yeah. We was hunting in a little bitty canoe, little old Gnu, 16-foot Gnu. Wasn't that wide, and traveling through them woods with a little 3-horse Go Devil or something. It was just a lot of fun, and so me and John hooked up, and we built that blind, and to support our habit, we had to guide some people. I mean, that's just the only way it was, because we was broke. I mean, you can go broke duck hunting real quick on equipment and stuff. So I will never forget putting out a flyer, just a Xerox sheet of paper. We guaranteed the limit of mallards, and we charged people $100 a day, and that was a big number. We thought at that point, but if you didn't kill your limit of mallards, then you didn't have to pay us. And the limit of mallards was 2 mallards at that time, so we felt pretty good about, well, we're gonna kill a few. We're gonna make some money. Sure, support our habit. How about that? So that one year that we really started that big time, had a group out of Nashville. Wally Cook still works for TWRA, or maybe he's retired surely by now.
I think he's retired.
Yeah, Wally was one of the ones in that group, and took him hunting, and Wally didn't pay us. The only person the whole year that didn't kill the limit of mallards.
Really?
Didn't have a limit. I said, I don't want your money. I'll stick to what I say. He tried to pay me, but I wouldn't take it. So that I still remember that, And from there, we guided people. And like I told you earlier, there's 4 generations now, and 2 or 3 of my crews that are hunting with me, and that's unbelievable.
Now, John Clore tells me a story that we're going to go back before here.
Okay.
That Wally Cook invited him duck hunting at Reelfoot Lake. Mm-hmm. When they show up boat ramp at you're carrying them in the station wagon with a boat in the back of the station wagon.
I don't doubt that.
And y'all went to the first place she's talking about.
Man, I was
over on the shoreline there across the big basin.
No, surely I didn't do them that way.
No, y'all, that was buddy hunting. I think you were still, maybe Clore was still in college, and he's a little bit older than me.
Man,
I don't think it was a guided hunt. I think it was more of a buddy hunt. Did you know Wally Cook before then?
No. I remember Wally was an officer there at Reelfoot. Now, I mean, yeah. So I knew him. Yeah, and then he moved to he was in Nashville when I actually took him for the $100, or the non
Didn't take him for
didn't
$100,
take him
yeah.
for $100.
Well, Clore's told me that story. I'm gonna
And
go back and get the
he very well
details.
may. But hey, look, I had a Catalina station wagon that was unbelievable,
Yeah.
and a 12-foot polar craft.
Y'all had to back all the way across the lake because the front forward was out of your boat motor. That's what Clore told me, and he's told me that story more than once.
I wouldn't doubt it. You know, I've lost motors. I've done. Look,
Had to back
Look,
all
the
of
best experience you'll get from being out there by yourself is learning how to fix stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you can fix a whole lot with a roll of baling wire and some gray tape or black tape, whatever.
Yeah.
Do a lot of work, but man, you learn to prepare and take stuff to fix stuff because you're going to tear stuff up. And I think that's something just like playing football. There's a lot of things you learn from football. Never give up, that kind of thing. Duck hunting's going to teach you a lot too. But,
Yeah.
Now,
Let's go.
when you first started hunting on Reelfoot,
yeah.
you could hunt from daylight to dark, right?
Yeah.
And that was the time of the people painting the black jugs,
Oh, yeah.
leaving them
Yeah.
out all year long.
Yeah, it was a milk jug dominant spread most every blind, especially those open water blinds, and they really worked. They really worked. I have shot way more ducks, close ducks over milk jugs than I have over decoys back in them days. I mean, we'd have about 250 jugs and maybe 6 dozen decoys, for a big spread.
Now, that was all before you had the mechanized.
Oh yeah, for sure. It wasn't. We had jerk strings. That's it. We had jerk strings rigged. But
Now, they banned those
the
gallon
jugs, yeah, just
And I
simply
guess
a lot of them would ice would ball those things up. They'd just be a big mess, and they'd hit the shoreline, and it was really polluting the lake shorelines. However, they didn't last long. They deteriorated pretty quick and rotted away. But it was a deal where people wasn't picking them up, and they made a law where you can't use a container that had to be a sealed container. Couldn't have a lid. So the little killer fillers that they have now, they're actually legal because it's not a lid. Don't have an opening lid to it.
Now, do you think that closing the hunting now is 3 o'clock, right?
3, yeah.
3.
Has that helped, hurt?
There, when weather becomes a factor, it probably lets ducks rest out there more. I know it helps the guide's life. We're ready to go home before 3. I wish it was at 12.
Yeah. If it happened at 12 and you had to be off the lake at 1 or 2, that could help.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the problem. Boats running all the time.
Well, just because the season's closed, it allows a lot of people to go work on stuff all the time. I mean, after 3 o'clock, there's more boats running than there is when we're hunting.
Yeah,
You just won't
working
get down to
decoys and stuff.
And the area is just not big enough. It's just just not big enough to keep all the boat traffic out of and keep ducks at a distance, unless it's in that big open water lake out there. Like I said, if everything's freezing up and that big water out there has got open water, then man, I've crossed it in the mornings and had to slow down and keep running over ducks, in the middle of the night, getting to the blind. But it's select days that happens. But the 3 o'clock closure, I don't know that it's back in the day, back in my younger days, ducks would roost in those areas over there. They would roost on Reelfoot Lake. We would be going in, even in the 90s, we'd be going into the bend there. We'd jump ducks every morning going in. I never do that much anymore.
Yeah.
Almost never, for whatever reason. I think all in all, they're almost acting like snow geese. I mean, safety in numbers, if you will. It's like where there's a bunch of mallards, there's a bunch of mallards, and they're not dotted here, there, and yonder. They all kind of they helping each other by helping each other. If you get what I mean. I mean, it's a safety factor traveling numbers, I think. I mean,
we're seeing that in the fields too.
I think so. But the bunches used to be broken up more back in the day.
Yeah. How has your hunting strategy changed? Say from the 90s to now?
Yeah.
Because you talked about it earlier. How you used to just go sit on the shoreline, a few decoys.
Yeah. That was, well, I have done it all, Wally.
Yeah, we know.
I have maxed out. Well, in '99, of course, when that spinner come out, there'll never be another year like '99 unless we shut it down for 10 years and then try it again. But it'll never be one compared to that. So at the breaking point of that innovation, the more the merrier. How about that? And the bigger the merrier. I realized that real quick. And I realized it really hunting on the Mississippi River. Mm-hmm. We had a drought year one year and a really bad cold year one year at the same time. Ice filled the river, and I was hunting on a sandbar. We dug a 40-man, 40-foot long, 10-man, 40-foot long, 10-man pit by hand on a sandbar out in the middle, way out past the end of the dike. There was a little hump out there, and it was just tall enough for us to get down about 3 foot. And we lined that thing with chipboard, and I won't never forget buying 144 studs for the top, and we put the chipboard on it. But down there, we started using a bigger wing, and I was attracting ducks for miles. If they crossed the river anywhere in sight of me, and I was visible by a human 5 miles, I know, because I was at the boat ramp and I looked where we were hunting and I could see our decoys 5 miles away.
Yeah.
I was using huge wings though. I
remember seeing them.
And so that's where I keyed in on, man, the further they can see these things, the further they're attracted to them, the more attraction we get. So we started increasing the size of wings. We still do. I still go with that anymore versus not. I'd rather have an oversized everything. Yeah. And so decoys is the same. So in that regard, we're using less decoys, but they're bigger. And I think it helps us a lot. But motion, other than that wing, I have tried literally everything. And yes, it all works. And yes, it's a lot of work to get it going. But yes, it sure does look good. And I think sometimes it even looks better to the people than it does the ducks. Yeah. And there's something to be said for that. Yeah. If you got confidence hunting over your spread, it'll make you stay a little long. Yeah. It'll make you be on your toes a little bit more. I just tried to create recreate a daggone refuge, man, system. I've seen ducks when that sun gets up about 10, them old greenheads start chasing each other and absolutely knocking water 10 feet high. Unbelievable, erratic stuff. I've tried to create some of that stuff and been very successful at killing the ones I was wanting to kill too. Greenheads. Maybe before I leave, I'll show you a short clip of some of my new decoys that I've used. About 3-4 years ago, I started doing this, and it's an absolute greenhead killer. Yeah. And but it cost me some time and some effort. But saying that to say this, I've tried a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Have you seen the big decoys that have at Capps? They're even bigger. They're the biggest decoys I've ever seen. They started getting them last year. Quake Lake.
Yeah, oh yeah.
The black Judge.
Absolutely. He's got some of the biggest ones made. Yeah. Absolutely. I tell you, there's a lot to be said for a big decoy, especially in open water. If you hunt that open water and you had a bad ice night, man, the other ones we used to use would tip over and be upside down. It was a bunch of ice bombs out there. Lo and behold, we've killed so many over ice bombs, I can't tell you. And but man, these nice, they're so big they'll hold their own and stand up. And, if you can keep a decoy upright like that, that sun gets up, that ice will get gone pretty quick. Yeah. And so a foam decoy is a terrible decoy when it's froze. Foam is terrible. It's great when you shoot it because it don't leak, but it's terrible if you're dealing with terrible cold conditions because it holds that ice. One that's hollow with air filled, ice is gone.
Yeah.
But there's drawbacks to everything.
Yeah.
Man, we got options these days, and some of the best in the country. All the equipment out there is unbelievable.
What's your favorite type of day to hunt?
Sunny, boy.
Sunny and windy. Bro.
Sunny. If I'm in that field, I want it raining and windy.
Yeah.
Yeah, raining.
But in the woods where I like to go, it needs to be sunny to hide, man. You got to have the sun in your thought every second. I mean, I just get behind the tree, get in the shadow. You got to keep moving to get in the shadow sometimes. And, on a sunny day, they can see half as much as they do on a cloudy day.
Yeah.
If you've ever flown over timber with a sunny day, you can't really pick. You can see the ripple, but you can't really pick out the duck almost. But on a cloudy day, dude, you can see every duck down, anything. You can see a turtle.
Yeah.
It's crazy how much you can see on a cloudy day from the air, and I'm sure they can see twice as good as we can.
So is the blind you hunt today the same one that you moved when you were?
No, we never moved any blind. The old remnants of the old blind that
Or the new number that you?
The same number,
Yeah.
same number, yeah. We've made a No Limits Cafe out of it pretty much, and it might be 4-star though.
No, it's
No.
probably 6.
Well,
We've been there.
Yeah.
I was there actually. Me and Clora were at the boat ramp the day you put that tank in,
Yep. Well,
because you said it only takes so much water, and they carried it all the way across the lake and went up in there with it.
and we winched that rascal, and I tell you, mysteriously, we built the thing out of wood, of course, and on July the 13th of '93, I believe, mysteriously, lightning hit my blind
Yeah.
back there, and you could see the fire from Tiptonville. Some people says something's on fire. Anyway, lo and behold, it was R121. And it was July the 13th that happened. Now, things like that will happen to you when you shoot too many ducks.
Yeah.
Or shoot too many shells and kill a lot of ducks. And that's just the way it is. I don't care where you're hunting. So, anyway, I then converted from wood to steel. And I didn't know how to weld, but I learned
Yeah.
real quick.
Didn't Billy Milner help you some?
Yes, he
weld?
did. Great boy.
I
He's
remember.
a great welder.
Is Billy still alive?
Boy, I couldn't
It's been a
tell you.
couple years since I've seen it.
He did help me. Man, it was endless because getting in there was terrible. I had a 20-foot Go Devil boat, one of the first ones that ever come to Reelfoot Lake. Warren Coco made it for me as long as he could, 20-footer, as long as I could buy. And I had a welder sitting in the middle of that thing, one of them old heavy rascals.
Mm-hmm.
And about 3 sheets of steel and some 1.5 by 1/4 angles, about a full load in that boat. And it was an hour and a half to get there, hour and a half back out of there, and a day's work after you got there dealing with that stuff. And man, did I put in me and John, I couldn't have done it without John now.
He's a worker.
He's a worker. But, and lo and behold, man, it all come together for us right there after we got that built. And we felt a lot better about lightning not getting that one. So,
On a clear night.
yeah.
You would think lightning would be attracted more to steel than wood.
Well, boy, I've cringed back there a few times. I have.
That kind of stuff's calmed down a little bit. Hasn't it?
Yeah, completely stopped.
Yeah. You don't hear nothing
No,
about it anymore.
No. And you know what we're talking about is remnants of what I talked about earlier.
Ain't no doubt.
People
Cross
just
the
thought
line,
that.
they
I mean,
didn't
you,
like it.
you don't
you
tread
don't
on
leave your zone.
Yeah.
You don't belong here.
Yeah,
Go
yeah.
back to where you're supposed to be,
Absolutely.
and it's all right.
Yes, sir.
That's when all the blinds were private, right? Maybe they weren't all
Well,
private.
it was the strongest guy could keep keep us blind established, I guess, at that point in time.
And they always said they all burnt in July. But
Yeah.
at least they had enough respect to give them time to build them back.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to think about it.
Yep.
They'd always say, it
Yep.
burnt that lightning storm in July. That was
Yeah.
a clear night.
Yep.
You hear a lot of that.
Yep.
So I got a question for you. I think I know the answer to this, and it's probably not a real wanted answer, but let's just say in 30 years from now, 40 years from now, will Reelfoot one day be all a draw?
Oh, absolutely. When everybody's dead, yeah.
Yeah.
With yeah.
That's
And
what it'll-
and
that's what it'll
that's
go to.
what the plus side of this whole thing is that, man, it's been countless hours spent by the guides, if you will. Everybody's ever had a dream of and a love for hunting, doing what we do, that put their absolute heart into establishing a place. And not only that, just basically maintaining the hole, if you will. I mean, just maintaining a hunting spot. I mean, keeping the hole open is sometimes a problem. You know, back in the woods, I mean, them beaver, they girdled it was over 200 green ash trees in my little deadening there. And lo and behold, there's not many left. They fall every year. What's left? But when I first started hunting there, and I got pictures of it, there was a unbelievable amount of ash, and it was a beaver pond situation. But the water was low. That's what the beavers was doing, is girdling those trees, and they absolutely killed every tree there. And it looked like a bunch of toothpicks. You had to walk over all the time. And, I won't never forget me and John dragging the log this way and dragging one that way. And, they wasn't very big. They were gallon jug size, most of them.
Yeah.
Up from the base. At the base, they this size. And that beaver would just eat all the outside bark and kill the tree. And they finally died and then fall over. And, man, we moved trees for days there just so we could get in there with a boat and that kind of thing. And it was an original spot. I mean, we made that spot ours. The water body was there. We just had to get to it, and boy, it was some kind of deal getting through the woods with a boat. But things like that. It's going to allow for somebody's not even born yet to enjoy that spot. I think what we've done, the work we've done. So, all in all, that's I think we've done a great thing having a situation like it is. I mean, and I don't know that some of the really high maintenance places will be maintained as good as they need to be in the future. Maybe even go on a longer term draw, maybe 2 years. I don't know.
Or have something for the old guys that's time to keep the spot.
Possibly.
They're looking at things, and every time they run into a issue of fairness.
Well, here's the deal.
Yeah.
It'll
Every time.
you'll never make everybody happy.
No, but I'm talking about by the government, by the state rules
Yeah.
of fairness to every person in Tennessee.
Yeah, that's right.
But they are looking,
Yeah.
and they've looked every which way because they want to keep that lifestyle
Yeah.
of the guides,
Yeah.
bringing people in, keep people in duck hunting because you can't sell license without duck hunters.
That's right.
Is there any way? Well, I mean, is there any way to
They're looking into it. I mean,
re-grandfather a family member? I mean, would they ever even do that?
I'm sure it's one of them legislative things that
Yeah.
that says, hey, you're being unfair to you can't just go into one group and make a rule.
Sure.
Well, the reason they
Tony would know more about this.
The reason they, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ronnie, I think I'm right about this, but I could be mistaken. You were having difficulties. There were getting to be multiple lightning storms,
Yeah.
and people's blinds were burning, and there was getting to be some violence involved with all this because at that particular point in time, someone could move a blind into Cranetown and create another. I mean, that's where.
That's what happened.
There were no restrictions.
Yeah, at that point.
And I wasn't part of the reason that they decided to do this is because this was a state piece of property, and they wanted to cut down on some of the conflict.
Well, maybe so. Yeah, I would say you're right because by today, if we hadn't had all this in place, we'd have a blind in every mud hole there is back there.
That's right.
Nobody would even have a spot to even walk to like some of the places I talked about. I'm telling you, there's numerous, depending on the water level, there's numerous places that are really quality places on Reelfoot. You got to really get the map out.
Yeah.
And there's nothing easy about it. But man, what a quality. My grandpa and Mr. Shorty there built a 2-man blind between two tight cypress in a hole on the first gate. And it's going to be on the south side of Big Ronaldson. Between there and where the old check station used to be right there. Matter of fact, there's a hole back here, deep water. I mean, deep water when there's no water.
Yeah.
And there's remnants of that blind still back there.
Oh.
I've been back there, and but we stood right there, and I never fired a shot in that blind because we'd always go in the afternoons.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't. He wouldn't go through there before daylight with me, or anything. He always loved to hunt in the afternoons. Matter of fact, most of the time, with me early, and I don't remember ever killing a duck in there. But it was the prettiest sight you ever seen back in there.
Duck hunting had gotten pretty bad at Reelfoot in the early '80s. In certain places, hadn't it?
Terrible. I remember in the Cranetown years right there was mornings that if we saw 3 bunches of mallards, didn't even fire a shot, we had a pretty good morning.
Yeah.
I'm talking about 3 bunches. And I, back in those years, there was one morning in there that I had my Jackie Hutchins school teacher with me and Steve. It was 4 of us shooting. And shouldn't be telling this, but we all shot 3 times. 13 mallards fell.
Oh.
And, you know, things happen like that.
Yeah.
But that's how tight they got in there. And they was all fluttering right there in front of us. We all shot 3 times, and we had 1 too many that fell. I mean, it's just going to happen now. And I ain't ashamed of it, and I'll tell anybody.
It happens.
It's going to happen. And, you know, do the right thing, whatever situation you're in, and that's just the way it is. But it'll hurt your feelings because you didn't mean, you know, honestly. I mean, if you have a conscience, man, it'll bother you.
Yeah.
It bothers me right now, honestly. And I hate. That's how much different it was, man. You took your time shooting. You didn't have to hurry, usually. But when they wadded up and you got a 50 bunch, golly, it's just unbelievable.
It ain't many of those no more.
No, it's not. It's not.
Why do you think that is?
I just think they're a little more reluctant. I think you got some older birds that are somewhat mixed with some younger ones, and you know, time just like any of us, we get a lot smarter when we get a little bit older.
Yeah, you know? We're trying to prove that to a couple of our people on here.
Well, I mean, it takes a lot of time for some. I mean, a lot of time.
Forever.
A lot. I don't know if there's that much time left.
Yeah, forever.
Do you think? I think this. I think. Well, back then, it was rare to have a 3-inch gun. Most people hunted 2 3/4.
2 3/4, yeah.
Then when we got steel, well, you got a 3.5-inch shell.
Man, we thought it was going to be better than lead. I'm like, steel? Oh, I got to try some of that. And I thought I was shooting blanks. I remember shooting that in Cranetown now. I do, yeah. That was in the 80s.
Shooting lead.
Yeah. No, steel.
Yeah. I remember when steel
when it first come out, you didn't have to shoot steel, but it was on the market.
Oh, you had an option of either one.
Yeah.
At first, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know. We
because
didn't
some
know. I
counties
mean, we
didn't.
didn't. You know, I didn't even know. I'm like, man, we'll try that. So I might kill them further or something. I don't know. I'm gonna try it. Shoot. I remember it. I just like, man, I got to get my Super X back out. You know, them 7.5. We shot 6 and 7.5 shot most all the time, and 2 3/4. You know, Super X, and 7.5 most time. I mean, heavy loads. I shoot them at ducks. I shoot them at the trap shoot, the ham shoot, every shoot whatever we shot at, we shot with 7.5 or 6.
There's Super X right there, ain't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
I think people think, well, I'm shooting a 3.5-inch now, so I can shoot them further. And I think you get a lot of educating of ducks.
The furthest goose I ever seen kill with a lead shot back in them days was with a 2 3/4 number 4, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe he shot, but he was dead as a hammer. We picked him up.
I remember what
one shot.
I can remember what ducks looked like when they got shot with lead, and for those people that never hunted with lead, the duck would just fall different. It'd be dead.
Dead. No chasing.
No
You're right.
chasing. Very rarely.
I got a fella that works for me every day of the season, and that's his job. And that's, you know, we put together some numbers that some people don't put together because they don't catch their cripples. And I respect them enough. If I get him on the water, I'm going to do everything in my power to catch the duck.
That's what I believe in.
And I've went to lengths on not letting a cripple get away, and it matters at the end of the day, man.
Yeah.
Because I tell you, sometimes it depends on how the shooters you got a lot, how close they getting, and what kind of winds you got. There's a lot of things. But I take a lot of people that they shoot one time a year. They go hunting one time a year, and there's not. So we get cripples regularly, but I'm telling you, there's probably a number up there near 30-40% that's going to swim off on you.
No, yeah.
If you don't start shooting right away. And I take a 10 gauge with me, and that's my job is to kill one that's swimming off. I use an extra full choke, and I use some small shot usually, and I do a service being able to kill a cripple and not destroy my decoy setup too. But that's kind of where I come in. I do a lot of calling, try to call a shot when I can, do the best job I can. But after all the firing's gone off, I hope I'm ready to get what's swimming off. And between me and the guy that works with me, he's in a little 6-foot kayak, man, and we don't let too many get away. So it's important to have that, I think, anymore.
No, ain't no doubt. Especially if you're in a cornfield too.
Oh,
Man,
gosh,
corn
man.
eats them.
A weedy corn. Woo. Yeah.
they're gone.
We thought about putting a fence around ours at about 40 or 50 yards.
Yeah, I got it. That's what I use. I do. I do. It's bird netting. You can get it. It don't have to be 6 inches tall.
Yeah,
They won't go over it
they won't.
unless you're chasing them. Now you can run them over it, but when they hit that fence, they'll swim down it. Yeah, they'll swim the edge of it. And what you want to do is create a pocket for
Yeah,
them to go up in, and
Like
you
a
got 'em.
funnel.
most of ours go the same way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you can sure stop that. Back in the day, we some old trammel nets that my granddaddy would use on Reelfoot. We'd put them up in key places where they would go and stop them. We caught a lot of cripples that way. You just take a piece of the net and stretch it between trees, and coon and mink knock it down. So if you have to refurbish it every morning, but man, sometimes you catch some ducks with that. That way, keep them from getting away from you. But I think it ought to be a conscious effort among every hunter to try to retrieve what he kills instead of keep pulling that trigger and watch where that one falls and go get him.
And a lot of people will shoot, and then they won't shoot it when it's right there,
Oh man!
and it's a wide open shot.
And he's gone.
Yeah, and then nobody else can get a shot.
No, I'm in disagreement on that. They just trying to get them out of the air.
Yeah,
That ain't me. I think there's another step to it these days, just based on what we shoot and some of the shots we, some shouldn't have taken. Sometimes people do, and when you're a guide, man, you see all kinds of things. It's just you're gonna see, you're gonna see a lot of stuff. Just try to keep it between the line and ditches. All you can do.
Well, we pretty much covered hunting on Reelfoot, I believe, unless you got anything else you want to add, Ronnie.
Man, I can talk all day about it, day by day sometimes, some of the memorable ones, but I've had some balls over there.
how is the water on the lake this year?
Great shape.
So you
right
got
now.
water right now?
Oh, heck yeah. Right now,
Well, you ought to be good then.
we're in great shape. Probably once early show up, you see a lot of grays, for sure. Usually when we got high water in November, we'll see a lot of gray ducks and gadwall. So I've had some very good openers in years past when we had water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they are a duck that will get in some heavy timber places, cover too, man, buckbrush. They look, and they're so easy to hunt on a quiet day if you like to timber hunt.
Yeah.
All you got to do is almost like go steel hunting like you deer hunting or squirrel hunting, and just start listening. And I don't have good ears, but I still can hear a gadwall thing, and they'll usually bunch up and feed together, man. And they're a lot of fun to find. Best thing to do is find them and then show back up where they are the next morning.
Sit on the X.
They coming.
Oh yeah.
They coming, and nobody does that much. Nobody does that much. But heck, I feel like if you got enough effort to get out there and squirrel hunt or chase a deer through the woods, you'll be able to shoot you a duck.
Yeah.
The same way.
Ain't many people squirrel hunting no more though.
No.
Not a lot.
Let me ask you this: from the time you started guiding until now, have you, at least on the lake? Let's just stick with the lake right now, Reelfoot Lake. Have you noticed a difference in the mix of the bag that you harvest?
Yeah, I remember that point system. Boy, we was trying to. Where I hunt matters. See, I can't quite compare it to Cranetown and where I'm hunting now is about the same. But you get on that open water, it'll be a much more of a mixed bag. But mainly it's mallards, and gray ducks, and then this teal thing is coming into play, and it's coming in strong, man. Last few years, I do not have a teal hole. So I'm speaking for people that are hunting behind me back there in that little bit more open water. Man, they are killing some teal now. It sounds like World War III. They're shooting teal because I see them. They just don't like me. I'm too tight. I'm in too tight of a timber hole. But they'll zip over me. Once in a while I'll get a bunch in there right, but man, they so close then you can't kill them. And then, but they'll zip over me in first open water, boy. They'll dive for that open water, and 4 or 5 blinds will actually get shooting off of them. So I know their bag is way up on teal. Ours is, we'll kill a few, not many, but some. But gadwall is definitely second in line behind the mallard, and then the teal will fall right behind them. Once in a rare while, we'll kill a pintail back there in the woods. It'll be with some mallards usually and a black duck. But man, I have to count on mallards where I'm at. I mean, that's just. But like I said, where I hunt is totally different. When you get in that open water, they got a variety pack out there a lot of times.
Do you think the mallards are showing up later in the season than in the past?
Well, I do. I think they got a lot better quality habitat. Everybody's working on habitat all up and down the flyway these days. I think that if they're not pressured by the right weather, they're going to hold themselves up a lot. Water's a factor. Water is just as much of a factor, I think, as weather on pushing ducks. If that Mississippi River can get filled and there can be water in excess of the river, the ordinary high water mark, outside the high water mark, I think that they got a great highway foodway to not have to worry about jumping down the flyway. I think it makes it much easier to get to us here. However, on a drought year where they just hole up in places up there, they got food and they sit tight, and they really just kind of nervous about getting on the road that ain't a road much of a road except a main channel or something, and they a little bit more reluctant to move when we don't have a high Mississippi River. And in that kind of situation, when we do have a bad front like we had this last year, here they all come.
Yeah.
Of course, they got to get out of there then. And they all come quick, and they come way on down south. They killed a lot of ducks way south of us too on this last one. But I probably experienced some of the best hunting this year on the Mississippi River. Well, it's not going to get any better. It's not going to get any better. We kill a limit every day, usually with 10 guys, and I hunt 10 men every day, and that's a lot of ducks. That's a lot of ducks. It's really, and they was most often full limits. I'm talking about the river now, but after the Reelfoot was really froze up bad, and so I just pulled the plug on that, and I do have several options. That's one of them.
Well, we're about to go to the river in the next episode if you got time. So don't go to the river yet.
Hey, while we're here, let's go.
Hey,
Well,
I want to tell you a story that I experienced last night that was really cool, and see if you know this book. But took my lady up to Hub's last night for dinner.
You still got a lady?
Yeah, I do. And coming back, I wanted to stop in at one of my friends' lake houses on the lake that got some real bad damage back early summer when that storm came through. And he doesn't live local, so I went up there to check on it. And I knew he had this book in the house, but a tree fell right through the middle of it. So I thought everything in the house was ruined.
Yeah.
Well, they've been rebuilding it, and I went in there and looked, and I found that book, and it was undamaged. And I started reading through it last night, and I got chills.
Yeah.
But it's
Russell Caldwell, maybe.
Yep, Reelfoot Lake, History Duck Call Makers, Russell Caldwell.
Absolutely.
So you know the book.
I got the signed copy. He gave me one of the first ones. Yeah.
I was so
He hunted with
glad
me.
to see that it wasn't ruined.
He was a great guy, man. He appreciated what I'm telling you about today. He appreciated where we started, where we come from, and all the people that we introduced to our sport, man. And the last years he was all about savoring every second. How about that?
Yep.
And it was so important to him. And I'll have to give him credit. He put a lot of info in that thing and put it, but I'm telling you, he didn't put a fraction of what he could have.
Oh, yeah.
In there. So and we don't have many accounts of, where we're coming from. I'm glad y'all getting this tape. Maybe 50 years from now, maybe somebody will listen to it.
Well, I was just
That'd be crazy.
I was just reading some passages last night through it, and she was standing there, and she was like, "You're gonna cry," and I'm like, "I ain't gonna cry." I was like, but it's some really deep stuff that he wrote in that book.
I think some pictures. He hunted on the youth hunt with me, and in there, and the youth took some kids.
He was an observer, not a hunter.
Yeah, he was there. He was there.
No, I just think it was funny.
I guess his grandson was with us there. We had. I'll tell you a story. One more story about Reelfoot about that one of them. I don't know that it was that particular hunt, but we and I've got pictures to prove it. When we got through, we did not have our limit, but we didn't have any more shells left. But we had 99, and they was almost all mallards, but we had no shells left, and it was 10. No, there was 20. There was 10 boxes. There was 10 shells and 10 boxes of shells in a case. There was 20 10-box cases of shells shot in my blind by juveniles. Most of them all 20 gauge, and we didn't have a limit. I had kids. The whole line would hold 18 kids on front, and they had. Russell was one of the observers. We had observers everywhere, but we had kids outside of the blind. And if a pair of mallards come in, everybody shot 3 times. I'm telling you, they was not going to leave a shell in that gun. And they may have failed real quick, but I'm telling you, they kept shooting, and it was so fun just to let them shoot, man. But most of the time, it was always a pair, and sometimes we just get one of them. It was that bad. But them kids, they still bring it up to me. And there was 100,000 ducks on the adjacent refuge traveling over us, back and forth. It was ridiculous amount of birds there. It just hit just right, and made a memory just to have that many. That's probably one of the biggest numbers of people in one spot I've ever did.
Now, was there not a year, maybe the same year, the last day of the season, because y'all could hunt till dark?
Yeah.
Didn't y'all have a barn burner?
We run 70.
And it was like people everywhere.
We killed. We didn't have a limit this time either. We picked up 72 on the last day, and it was turning rain turning to snow and freezing up. And I've never killed that many in the timber with a cloudy snow. It was rain to snow, like I said, but it was freezing up. And some of the apparatus I mentioned earlier, I was able to keep that water beautiful, man. And it was real water. It wasn't ice water. Mm-hmm. It was real water, and it made a huge difference. And I used one spinner. I was only using one spinner, but I had a lot of motion on the water. And man, they was eating it up. They were. So I think you just do what it takes to. Yep. If you're a good hunter, you'll watch the duck, and when the duck reacts to whatever you offering, pay attention to that real quick. Whether it's a call or a visual or whatever he sees, you know real quick whether he's interested or not. Mm-hmm. So it's important to watch them birds 100% of the time if you can.
Yep. Well, RT, you got any questions for Ronnie about Reelfoot?
Heard that thing?
No.
How about you, Waddy?
No, I want to go to the river. We're going to go to the river. So our sponsors, that goes to the youth banquet that we're going to have in Bogota. We just wanted to also, we don't want to leave anything unturned. There, J&S Migrators Guide Service is also having a youth banquet. I'm reading the post here.
We've seen this on Facebook.
Yep, and we reached out to them, and they okayed it, that we told the listeners about it. But he's wanting to have 20 kids for the first weekend of juvenile. 20 kids that have fought cancer or have been through St. Jude. So I think it's really good that they're doing that. And he's going to so you can come in on Friday with the kid and the parent and stay at their lodge Friday night, hunt Saturday, and then stay Saturday night as well. All of the food is going to be provided, everything. It's a completely free hunt. So, along with our youth banquet too. We just, I guess, want to say thank you to those boys for doing that.
Do you have any contact information for them?
So it says just reach out to J&S Migrators Guide Service on Facebook.
Or for people that have children that have gone through St. Jude's or have some
Cancer or any kind of adversity.
J&S Migrators is going to offer a youth hunt.
That's right.
It's limited to 20.
Limited to 20.
And if you want to contact them, look on their Facebook page.
Yep.
Where's the hunt at? I think it
just says at their new West Tennessee location.
Yeah, so it's still in Tennessee, and it'll be cool. And that kind of touched us. Like, we want to have a big youth turnout, but we really want these people to get their 20 because it'll be something special. If we got 3 or 100, we're going to be happy. But we want them to get their 20. So
we're still going to have the youth banquet on the
same night.
It's the same night.
It's the last night of regular season.
That's right.
First
January 31st.
January 31st.
2025.
Okay, it's going to be at the Pagoda Community Center.
It is. It's going to be epic. It's going to be the biggest youth banquet in Pagoda.
It probably will be. And then you're going to have, there's a coon hunt for...
Coon hunt, the youth coon hunt. We're not sponsoring it, but we're helping the youth coon hunt. It's going to be at the No Limit Cafe.
No Limit Cafe, November 15th at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, we're going to feed them, and then they're going to carry them out somewhere close they can get to. Coon hunt, you know, it's one of these things. It's going to be easy for the kids, and you know, if you want to leave, you can leave. So bring your kids.
Yep.
So if
Sign
you're
up,
interested
bring your
in
kids.
having one of your kids are interested in coon hunting on November the 19th, is that correct?
15th.
November the 15th. Get here at the No Limit Cafe in Pagoda before
5 o'clock. Yep.
5 o'clock. There's going to be coon hunters with the dogs and the equipment, and they're looking for some juveniles to take out.
And it will be easy. Everybody remember that. Mama's going to bring the kids.
It'll be an easy
Grandma
event.
can bring the kids, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah. That's
Good
right.
deal. Is there any other announcements we need to make?
No.
Anything?
Remember our sponsors.
Remember our sponsors at the.
We'll go through that again. Wally's going to take us off in prayer, and then we'll have you close us out, Tony.
All right.
You
Just
want me to
remember
run
our
the sponsors?
Yeah, run the sponsors one more time.
The Pagoda Boys are sponsored by Cypress Creek Outdoors, Travis Ward Custom Calls, Makers Call Company, Lane Dunning Custom Calls, Pine Bluff Sand and Gravel, Outer Limit Power Sports, Hurt Seed and Halls, Farm Credit Mid-America, Tyson Foods in New Bern, Decab Asgrow and Delta Pine, Berrien Surveying, Mud Lake Planning Company, Pete Kaiser Accounting Services, West Tennessee Crappie Fishing Guide Service, Chase Petty Outdoors, Universal Contractors, Ford Construction, Duck River Bird Taxidermy, Waterfowl Outfitters of West Tennessee, Wendell Alexander Realty, Hilliard Farms in Nauvoo, Tennessee, Nutrient Ag in Wimberg, and our very own Childress Farms.
Thank you, sponsors, for sponsoring the Pagoda Boys. Wally, you want to close us out in prayer?
I am, but first I'm going to, our two fishing sponsors, West Tennessee Crappie Outfitters and Chase Petty, they went down to Texas. I'm trying to read this and I can't see. Come in 5th place in the Brian Sowers Legacy Crappie Tournament and Scholarship. And they're going to compete. What is that, Ronnie, at Kentucky Lake? Is that the World
That's Crappie USA Classic.
Classic?
Yeah.
They're going to be there
Classic.
next weekend at it.
Yeah.
And these are the two young men that are giving the live scope fishing trip
Yep.
to our youth hunt kids. Going to be 2 of them. It's going to be in the fishing trip is going to be in June at Kentucky Lake for black crappie. They said that's when they hit them the best up there, and the weather will be good and school will be out, I guess.
So if somebody wants to be eligible to win that fishing trip, they need to come to the
No Limit Cafe.
Youth
You
banquet.
need to come to the youth banquet that will happen at the Pagoda Community Center on January 31st. Wally, you want to close us in prayer?
But we might have a small twist and give one away on not Facebook, but Instagram before it, and then you have to be present to win the other one. Let me just close us out. Dear Lord, thank you for another good episode. Thank you for bringing us together. Thank you for the trust you've given to us to pass on what we know. and maybe bring a little enjoyment to somebody else's life. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ronnie, for sitting with us on this, or coming and being our guest and educating us a lot on the duck hunting, Reelfoot Lake. We've really enjoyed it. Until we have another episode to the listening world, this is the Pagoda Boys broadcasting from downtown Pagoda, Tennessee, the duck hunting capital of Dare County.